Well, thank you for taking the time first. It's great to meet you, and thanks for taking the time to
Oh,
chat to Metal Talk
thank you
tonight.
for talking to me. I know we're gonna be I'll be heading over your way in June.
Yeah, I'll actually be there.
Awesome, awesome.
But I'm actually going to be there for the London show, and I'll see you at Hellfest as well.
Oh, awesome, awesome.
So a festival and a headline appearance, I guess.
That's good. That'd be fun.
But I was gonna start with more of a general question, since I guess many of Metal Talks readers would know you from Savatage, would know you from Trans-Siberian Orchestra, or would know you from your solo work. But I wanted to ask you how you got into playing guitar first, just to set the stage, put it that way.
I was always infatuated by what an electric guitar looked like. You know, when I was a little kid, my I had a tiny little LP player. You know, the ones that were like the size of a freaking actual LP square, about this tall, and I'd play old Beatle records, and they really didn't have too many photos, image things, but when you got to some of their later years and you started to see more of the electric guitars on the things, I just thought they looked really cool. I would go to the stores when I was like three, four, five, and look at the electric guitars, and I just thought they were something that was really cool. And my next door neighbors bought me Wings Over America as a Christmas present, and that was kind of my first record that really went from the heavier side of the Beatles that I liked to stuff like Live and Let Die and Rock Show and those songs on that album that were a little bit heavier. And I just looked at that cover of that album. I really loved it. Then, when I was about, I guess it was 8 years old, um, the same day I went out to a record store with some of the money I had from newspapers and raking lawns, and I bought Kiss Alive and the first Boston record in the same day, and I think that I was pretty much gone from there. I had a guitar that my parents got me when I was real young, but I wasn't really playing it yet. And then I bought myself a guitar and started taking lessons when I was 11. But it's kind of the only thing I ever wanted to do. I just saw
Right.
me. That's what I saw me being, and when I got older. Luckily, it worked out because I had no other plan. Like, that
All
was
right. And I was gonna ask, did you go into bands as a teenager, and that led into Sabotage eventually?
Yeah, I started playing live real young. I think I was 13 when I played my first bar. My mom had to be there. Then I was,
Right.
15, I was in 16 and in high school, and I had a club band that was, I would open for Metallica and then go to high school the next day and open for, bands like Twisted Sister and go to high school the next day. When I was 17 years old, I actually was able to use my brother's ID because he was 19 and the drinking age got pushed to 21 in New York, and you were grandfathered in. Not that I was drinking, but I had his license and his social security card, and I was able to go to these really cool events and places to hang out at a very young age. And I got to meet the singer from the band Heaven, and I managed to get that gig like right when I was almost done being 17 into 18. I got a gig into that band, and they were managed and produced by Paul O'Neill, and then that's when my the rest of the story of the next 30 years of my life was going to be put together. Or next from there, the next 40 years of my life actually
Hmm.
were put together from that point in time. When I'd met Paul, and some of it was being the right place, the right time, but I also was really driven to be a good guitar player when I was younger. So I was pretty talented. I had a good image and a good attitude, and a lot of people liked working with me. So I got into the business at a very young age.
Right. Right. Let's talk a little bit about 20 years of the Music Man, which is coming June 13th. I listened to the record, and what surprised me first and foremost, that I'd listened to some of your solo work before, but it surprised me that it's very diverse in terms of the songs on it. And I was going to ask you, what was it that guided you in your track selection for this retrospective? And I noticed you even asked fans on social media.
Well, what I wanted to do was take that period of time, which was 2004 to 2024, when those songs were recorded, and put together a cool little timeline that included all the different styles of music that were in my solo records. You know, I had really heavy songs, but I had acoustic songs, I had instrumental songs, I had songs that had the, you know, the holiday winter feel of TSO, and I had funny songs, and I had, you know, not so funny songs, and I had long songs and short songs and fast songs, and I was just like trying to piece together what I thought would be a good representation of me. I mean, there was some unreleased stuff, so I picked things around them that I thought were gonna, you know, just make a really good listen, a fun listen for everybody, you know. And I recorded the song "Do You See What I See Now" last year, and
Hmm.
that single, I wanted to find a way to release it. I first approached Metalville about doing maybe a 20-year anniversary of my goddamn War Warped record, but they didn't want to do a double vinyl at first. And you know, the Warped record original name was going to be Goddamn War, but I changed it out of respect for a lot of the religious audience that was around TSO.
Right.
Um, so they said, well, why don't you get some unreleased songs and release like Mayday and the My Late song I had on a Metalville compilation and some other things. And if you have a couple other new songs, and you know, I knew Savatage was going to be playing, and I was like, well, I don't necessarily know if I'm going to have the time when I get off the TSO tour
Hmm.
to record. And luckily, I didn't pick that because I had some, you know, surprises come up with my mom's health, and I spent a lot of time with her and in the doctors and hospitals in the first months of the year. So it was a very stressful time for me then. So I was lucky that I didn't need that. But I kind of like, I thought about it, and I was like, well, there's songs that, you know, might have a new kind of life if they came out now. And that's where I was thinking about Music Man, and I thought about Pisses Me Off. And I thought that, you know, those songs maybe could get another life in some
That's a
way.
very cool one, actually.
Yeah.
I kind of felt, it kind of echoed my feelings one morning a couple of days ago. So,
You know, it's funny because I didn't even know until I did a recent. I thought I just edited off. There was because there's a couple different versions of "Pisses Me Off" that came out. The original had a really long musical intro.
right.
It was like counterpoint vocals on instruments, and then that was edited off. And I think that's the version that was on the Music Man EP. But there's the radio edit that beeped off the swears, which it was getting a ton of radio play back then, and that's the one that wound up in this. And I didn't even know for sure that it was that or just the one with the beginning of. I would have been happy either way. And when I just I actually listened to my own CD for the first time. I was like, you know, it is kind of funny with the beeps, and people can get to the original version if they want to. And having the edited version does make it possible for people to play it in situations to where they wouldn't be able to. And I just think that that song has a lot of legs, and the lyrics, you know, there's still that same stuff is still pissing me off, except Starbucks is $8 a cup now, so it's not five. And I was asked if I could do a new one, and I was like, well, the only problem with that is nowadays people are so sensitive to everything that if I was to write what pissed me off now, it would probably anger people. There'd
It would
probably be,
end up pissing off people.
yeah, I piss off somebody by being, and it's not worth it. So I just put the other one out again, and you know, it's got a lot of legs on it. You know, out of my Spotify stuff, that song, you know, has the most listens to on that, and by far. And it's like I said, it's one of those ones that I think one day maybe a professional wrestler or a movie soundtrack or somebody will grab a hold of Pisses Me Off. And I just kind of reunited some things into a modern time. I wanted to do a vinyl, and I didn't want to have, you know, my fans that buy, most of my new releases have to get 8 different records, so they have this and it has a lot of different songs on it. My dog is here getting attention, so that's why I'm leaning forward. He's made it. It's funny today. He made it through. You're the third one I've done of these, and
All right.
he made it. He made it without bothering me in the first couple of them today. But he only goes so far before he demands my attention.
What dog is it? I have a Labrador
German.
that's
He's a German
downstairs,
Shepherd. He's a German Shepherd.
and my Labrador is downstairs because if I leave him around here during anything that involves video, he'll jump somewhere.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I have another one of these before 5 o'clock today, and I have two at night, and I have a feeling the two in the evening I might have to escape down to my studio area downstairs. I don't. He's getting older. I don't like him to use the stairs that much. That's actually why I'm
Right.
here right now and not down there. But he'll be fine.
Right. What was I gonna go to next? I was gonna say still on the album. Uh, you're at least judging by this retrospective. Your solo stuff is not as much of a, if that makes sense, as much as of a typical guitar player kind of solo thing, because generally it's not all solos, if that makes sense. I use the word solos too many times
Yeah,
here.
no, it's pretty funny. When I did my first solo thing, I was like, God, I'm probably one of the only guitar players that's done a solo record that really had,
Yeah, because it's vocal driven,
singing
a
more,
lot of it.
singing a lot of, yeah. And I enjoy singing. It's fun. I wanted to sing when I was younger, and my brother and the people in my band didn't think my voice was good enough or thick enough. That they said I had a Mickey Mouse sounding kind of voice, and I was like, I guess I was still a little kid, but I really enjoyed singing. So when I started doing these songs, and I was able to do songs like Music Man that had all those layers, it really
Hmm.
made me happy to be able to produce that kind of music. I have instrumentals on my record. I could do a record of all guitar instrumentals, but for me personally, it's more fun to do the vocal songs. So I enjoy doing, not that I don't enjoy the instrumental stuff, but it's more I think when you're recording, vocals are a lot more fun. I think the guitars and the instruments, they everything needs to be so precise, and it's a lot of more difficult work to record instrumentals than it is to record vocals. Vocals are more fun.
Oh, right. And in terms of your approach to songwriting, especially on the solo stuff, do you have constant ideas that you keep recording somewhere in a vault somewhere and you come back to?
You
Or
know,
do you go
it's
into album mode or single mode or EP mode?
it all depends on what I'm doing. If I have somebody says they want a metal record, it's pretty easy for me to piece together
Hmm.
that, but you also want to make, all right, I need a fast song, I need a slow song, I need a song that's dark like this one, and I need a song. So you kind of split things apart by tempo and types. But when I was doing my solo records, I written a lot of the music at first and recorded it before I put the vocals on. And then when I went to play it live, I was like, you idiot, this is not easy to sing and play. So now as I write things, I get more like Detroit Rock City in the verses where, you hit the power chord. I feel uptight on Saturday night. You're able to, perform and lay back and not worry about, playing the riffs from freaking Fade into the X while the vocals are going on. And it's like, you didn't, I'm not Geddy Lee. I don't know if many people are, but to play and sing like that, it's not the easiest thing in the world. So I realized that, sometimes now I will write the lyrics and melodies before I write the music around it, and that is fun. And if I am writing the music, I do have a tendency now to simplify things in the verses.
Hmm. That makes sense. But you mentioned playing live and playing these songs live, and I was going to ask you, will there be a solo tour for Music Man of any sort, or at least
You
some
know, I
appearances?
I really would like to play this stuff live again. I'm gonna baby step my way back into that. The last time I went to play live, it was so much work for me because I was doing everything myself. I was managing, I was getting together the merchandise, the crew, the plane flights, the booking the shows, and it was so much work that it became not fun. So I think if I am to do that, I'm gonna want to have somebody attached with me business wise besides the people I'm working with Savatage and TSO. So I'm gonna play it by time with that, day at a time where I'm doing everything now. And I kind of want to put together a band with people that I know close to me here so I can play the music without having to fly people in and get them hotels and deal with that for now, just so I could get things rehearsed with me and get back into that. But I have a lot of bands that have cover band friends that have cover bands around me that I go and jam with sometimes, and I might try to have some of my songs put into their sets for fun. I wouldn't mind doing something like that, or even if it came to something where I got time off and me and one of the singers that I work with or guitar players I work with want to go do some shows together and you sneak some of them in. I think it'll be like a gradual way back into it. It'd be fun. I mean, if it comes down to it and the opportunity happens and somebody says, "Hey, you want to go do a week of shows?" If I can put the thing together, it would be fine. My voice is stronger than it's ever been, and I'm able to play and sing live better than I ever was. So I think now I'm just so happy that Sabotage is back around that I'm kind of just going right at that now. And then
Hmm.
once that's done, I'll go to what's after that next. This record being released was something I wanted to do. I wanted to get a vinyl out and do another release for a while, and I was planning on releasing that single anyway, so that would have been coming out probably now just on its own if there wasn't a record. So I have this coming out, but it's fun though because I wanted to have vinyl, and I didn't want to have my fans buy 8 different vinyls. So it's good that they can get this, and it kind of bunches everything together in something that's really fun to listen to. And the music's still available on digital if they want to have the other versions to listen to, but to have the CD and the vinyl of this, the way it flows through, like you said, the different kinds of music, I think it's a fun listen to see what it is I did in my solo career.
It is indeed. And you mentioned Savatage playing live, and that leads me into what I was going to ask you next. Basically, the Savatage reunion, as far as I could see, has been very well received and I'd say, it was a very awaited moment by many Savatage fans. Uh, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you haven't toured since about 2002, and you haven't
Yeah.
played. Last time you played live was the Vakken thing, wasn't it, in
Yeah,
2015?
yeah, it's been
So,
over 20 years since we toured. Yeah.
yeah. And how does it feel stepping back into Savatage? How's the vibe compared to TSO, for example? Because you do TSO every year, obviously.
Well, I mean, those guys in the band are people that I see every year. Zach and Jeff are people that I tour with, and Al, me and Johnny and Jeff toured together with TSO on the Beethoven's Last Night tours and stuff like that. So I always see them and we always play. They're, my closest friends, and when we played again, it didn't seem like it was 23 years. It seemed like it was 3 years. It was weird. It just seemed like we never stopped. It's so crazy. It just felt the same but different. It's because we're a little bit older and a lot of time's gone by. We went up there and it was just like we were back home. Savage's music is so powerful on those stages and so much fun to play live and the music that John and his brother and Paul that assembled for this band's career. It's so magical when it's played in front of audiences, and I know the fans missed it as much as I did. So for me, it just feels like I don't know. There's life goes through so many ups and downs, and as you get older, it seems to me like the downs tend to jump out a lot when you don't expect them, and that comes from the health of your family members and things around you like that.
Hmm.
But having Sabotage back in my life has really been like a good anchor in the middle because TSO is the greatest freaking musical gig on the planet. I love being a part of that band and going and doing that every year. It's so amazing to be part of what Paul created with TSO. It's the greatest rock show that that I could possibly ever imagine being on inside of an arena. The production's amazing, the songs are amazing, the singers and musicians are amazing, the crew, the whole thing is just so great. It's that anchor there. Then you go all the way over to the other side of your life, and you got all these things, and there's time between when you're out with TSO and having Savatage to balance that time. It's equally as strong as TSO, and it sits in the middle, in the middle of that. So it really kind of like, where you might have a rubber band kind of up and down with everything. Savatage in the middle is kind of giving me a nice calming, knowing that my childhood band that I got into when I was 19, is back as an everyday part of my life now. I'm doing Savatage Press, and I see letters and posts, and we have shows booked, and my next performance is live or that. It's just it's a great feeling to have that be back, and I know everybody in the band's so excited to be back on the stage again, and we're all just bouncing around like a bunch of little kids. It's so much fun.
It's great to hear you talk about it like that. And I was going to ask you. There's always been talk, like other than the reunion talk, there's always been talk of a new album, and John mentioned it several times. And I imagine that is somewhere in the future, or I'm hoping that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
somewhere in the
It's funny
future.
because John mentioning that record's probably a lot of the reason why we're playing, because he did it in one interview around the COVID time, and the next day I got all these emails and messages and DMs, and so this is great. Savatage is doing another record, and I saw Blabbermouth, and I'm like, we are? So it's just kind of,
I remember that article
and
actually.
but I think that got agents going to me and the band and the management, and through that our management came up to us and said, "Hey, we want to have a conference call with you guys." And then they did, and they said, "Well, there's a lot of good offers for you guys to play some shows." And I think it's a lot spurred out of that. And John wants to do this music, and we're gonna get it done. I kind of am hoping that his idea of curtain call is not the curtain going down, but the curtain going up.
All right.
I have two different versions of where I think that should go. I think that this version of curtain call should be the new chapter starting over again, and hopefully that's where it goes. I mean, for me, nothing would make me happier. I know we plan on playing, and I hear the guys talking, and we talk about what 10-year touring plan and this and that. So if we're gonna be out there, there might as well be some new music, and it'll be fun to add a few things into the crazy good freaking back catalog.
So until 2035 at least, right?
Who knows? Who knows? I'm just happy that we're playing again. I can't imagine time going by faster than that. But to see 23 years go by with the blink of your eye, it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. It really is.
But you've done, speaking of shows, like in the very near future, you've done South America, you're coming to Europe now. Can the US and the rest of the world, or Asia, for example, expect some shows soon or soon-ish?
Well, that's the plan. The plan is for us to go anywhere that wants to have us. So I don't book the shows. I haven't seen dates, but whenever they show up to me, it'll kind of be like the song remains the same. If I'm in the backyard doing my garden, then that email comes. I'm gonna pack the suitcase and go. That's the way it's gonna be. Um,
It's really cool. And can I ask, how involved was John in the whole in the whole reunion side of things? I mean, I
Now
imagine his
he was very involved. He was picking the set list and the songs he wanted us to
right.
do, and helping. He was at every single rehearsal. If he was able to handle the traveling right now, it's the airport travel and overseas travel. It's just a
Hmm.
little bit too much for where it's back. You get dropped off by a car outside of an airport, and sometimes you got to go 2 miles to get to the terminal. It's like it's not. he's not ready for that just yet, and I wouldn't want to put him through that. It wouldn't be healthy for him at the moment. So, when he can, he'll be there. And yeah, he there wasn't a second that went by when we were putting this together that he wasn't there. And he went and recorded that new version of Believe to sing
Hmm.
and have Zach sing along. And he's the Mountain King. Savatage is his band, so it's we just we're blessed to have him in our lives, and the fact that he said to me, "Would you go play this fucking music? He wants us out there to play the song, so I'm gonna go out there and make him and his brother as proud as I possibly can. And when he's able to go, he'll be there. That's all I know."
It's fabulous, and I'm conscious of the time we have, and I was going to ask you on a completely different note. You're clearly a very busy guy from all you've told me now, and I know you also do other stuff apart from music. So how do you manage to balance home life and touring and all your other ventures like the hot sauce and the sea glass artwork, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's not that easy, and I miss some details sometimes. I think I'm lucky that there are computers for that matter because at least I can find what I missed. If everything was in a pile of paper on a desk, I would probably be in a lot of trouble because I can lose an email or misplace the date of something and get it back being online. If it was in a pile of whatever it is that came in the mail or it would be a lot more difficult to do. But yeah, I've got my Metalphant thing that's a lot of fun. I do that sea glass and art stuff with Wilbur the heavy metal elephant guy,
Hmm.
and he's actually right here, and he's keeping an eye on things. He always does.
Oh, it's awesome to have him on on the interview.
But that's a lot of fun because I'm able to give money to charities through the stuff that I saw with him and things to do. And I think I've talked to people all the time down the road. I think there's going to be a lot of legs with what I could do with him as far as books and clothing and more clothing because he has his Zazzle site and stuff like that. And, I do the thing with the hot sauce companies. I just was staying busy. I think a lot of that came out of the fact that Savatage wasn't playing, and
Hmm.
me being an artist, I wanted to create. And that is art. The food is art. The glass art is art. There's more to me than just being guitar player, as you said when I got singing too. So I think as an artist I'm a little bit more widespread than some people. Maybe if I was to launch myself further in it, I could be a guitar player on a level of some of the ones that are out there playing Carnegie Hall on their own as guitarists. But with me, I think as an artist, I'm a little, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm scatterbrained and I like
Hmm.
the chaos sometimes and I like different things and I like going from one to the other. But I think the one way, like I said, that it's kind of manageable is the fact that I'm able to hold organization through the digital world.
It's really cool, and I have two more very quick fire
That's fine.
questions.
That's fine.
What's the last concert you went to as a fan? This is completely different to everything else we discussed.
The
And
last
the last concert you went to as a fan, like completely unrelated to what you do.
trying to think of what the last because I just as a fan, I have to be one I'm not playing at. So I think
Yeah, that was it.
one of the last Judas Priest tours I went to, which is always fun to watch. Richie Faulkner, he's a good friend, but he's so good, and I like watching them. But even so, I got to see um, Accept and KK's Priest together. I think they were the last thing I did before I went on the last TSO tour. So I got to see the guys I knew in KK's Priest, and I have known the singer and Accept Mark since I was like 16. So he's a really good friend of mine. So Mark Tornello, I got to go watch that. I think that was one of the last concerts that I went to. Now that I think about it, probably yeah, it was the Accept KK's Priest concert.
Cool. And what's the album you had in heavy rotation lately? Do you listen to albums or singles? But I was gonna ask album.
Uh, just singles. I'll go through people's stuff online and I'll listen to different things here and there. Yeah, there's lots of records that come out, like, like the new Arch Enemy stuff and things like that. There's some really great heavy metal that comes out all the time. The new Accept stuff is always great. Every time Accept puts out a record, it's great. Every time Priest puts out a record, it's great. And KK's record was really good. So I like listening to the music that the bands that influenced me did. I think the new Falling in Reverse single that Ronnie Radke did with Marilyn Manson's pretty
Oh, I
cool.
listened to that. That's a really good song.
Yeah, he's a really interesting guy, man. He knows how to cause chaos, that's for sure. He's a master of getting I don't even know if he looks for the attention that way or if it just keeps him out of trouble, but he's very interesting. So I respect watching him and what he does. I know, I seems to be one of those artists that a lot of people either love or hate, but I just kind of respect the fact that he seems to keep driving himself to another level, physically and musically. And I think the stuff that he's putting out there is really cool. And I've watched some of the live videos and, his audiences are freaking getting huge. So it's
I think
cool.
they're Hellfest. They're at Hellfest as well, if
Yeah,
memory
he's
serves.
not on the same day as us. I
Oh,
think
right.
he's on Grass Pop and Hellfest, but I think it's 2 days before or 2 days after on each, and I'm not traveling away to watch the band live, but I'm sure one day I'll bang into it somewhere. But
Well, that is all I had shortened to to the normal list because I guess and I wanted to thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us at Metal Talk tonight. And I just want to wish you all the best with the album and the tour, and I'll see you in London and at Hellfest.
absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. You guys are I think you're the second show we do. We get over there, I think we play Into the Grave, and then I believe you're next. You may be next. It's either London or we go to Oberhausen, but I'm not exactly. I forget the order exactly. But
London is 15th of six or 16th of June, I think.
all right. So yeah, I think you guys are the second show of the tour. It'll be the first headline show, but I think it's going to be the same set that we do at the when we headline the festival. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I know that I just got an email yesterday that has a musical piece that was like 12 minutes long to learn. It's like kind of like a little montage of some songs and instrumentals to put together into that set that's a little bit different than what we did in South America. I know we're rehearsing for about a week when we get to Germany, so I'm looking forward to that, and I will see you soon.
I'll see you soon. Thanks very much, Chris. Take
Absolutely.
care.
Thank you. Have a good
See
night.
you. You too. Bye.